I am not an activist. I am not a journalist. I just, the way I see it is, I know it's very dark, and people might say, oh, this person is really, why he would do this kind of things, bring dark news to other people. We need to look around us and what's happening all around the world and unite, because at the end of the day, we are here today and we are not here tomorrow. I am a photographer, but I consider myself artist, especially recently in this couple of few years. I was not only using photography medium, but I was also working with sound, installation. I did also sculpture. The sound piece here, Deathscape, it's about a mass grave where 17 people were killed by Franco regime. We know now with war images, for instance, it's like people don't want to see images anymore of war because it's all everywhere, on your phone, on your screen, everywhere. So I have to let the people to create their own borders and to know how far they can go with creating these images. Most of the works I do, it's pretty much related to history. It has even though it happens decades ago or century ago, but it's still very relevant today because there's so much emotion, so much feeling, so much tragedy. So for me, this is what interests me. So this project is called Unexposed, and in Turkey there is this term called the ones who escaped the edge of the sword. And these are basically Armenians who, instead of being killed, they accepted or forced to convert into Islam. So they are second, third, fourth generation, and some of them realize that they don't know any histories from their grandparents, never told them anything about their past. And then they realize they're actually, because they are Armenians, that's why they kept silent. Eventually they live in hidden societies because the word Armenian, being an Armenian in Turkey, is like an insult, even until today. I don't take a lot of photos. I come across an idea, a topic, and then I start digging. And there will be a point where I cannot dig anymore, or I would say, okay, this is enough, I have enough information here, now I'm ready, I can just go take pictures and come back. So the process of taking pictures that's the easiest and the shortest bit. And for me, the most interesting, the most important thing in my work is the emotions of the people who went through these traumas. If you pass in front of these images without knowing what they are, I don't think you would stand in front of them and have a very long gaze at each image. But once you realize the title, that's where you get a wake-up call and say, where are the bodies, This is actually one of my projects where I started to realize how driven or attracted I was to this idea of the invisible things that we keep seeing it. For me, being there, I try to look for traces, for instance, just to prove that, to tell myself, no, they were there. The way I see my works, they are all interlinked, because I do feel connected to each work I did. And I think for me it is important to be connected, because I don't want to do a work that I have no relation whatsoever to it. Although I did quite few works that relates to the Armenian genocide and to my heritage, when we go back to it, and sometimes we get away from it, but it's always there, present somewhere. The purpose is kind of revisiting the past. It's basically where my grandfather was born, in eastern Turkey. This was before the Armenian genocide, and he could never go back. And my father nor his siblings also never did that journey. So when I knew about the story about my grandfather, I decided to go back to the village and film the village. And I told my dad, listen, you're going to look at now at images from where your father is from. I think for me the most important thing that to see how his face would react to these landscapes that we supposedly to be originally to be from there. I mean, to revisit these places, it's for me, it's to reassure. It's kind of reassuring, and it's also facing, because all this time we've only been told about these traumatic things, or we read about it, but we've never been there. So for me, that was a big challenge to go to my grandfather's village, to my grandmother's village, where they lost their families, and just be there. It is very big challenge. I get really absorbed with these places that are really haunting and empty. These are places that sometimes they have really a lot of emotions in them, although they are abandoned or only concrete structures, but they evoke a lot of emotions in us. The last scene project, it was where I photographed places of people who disappeared. It's kind of also similar to the idea of execution squares, where there is the phantom of the person who is hanging there, and here is the phantom of the person who disappeared. I interviewed the families for an hour or an hour and a half, listened to their story, and then the last 15 minutes I just took one picture. It's the picture where they pointed at to me, saying that this is the place where I remember seeing the person. But when doing these interviews, there is also an aspect that I realized that whatever we do, nothing is going to change for them. And also the idea that when war is finished, it doesn't mean everything is fine now, we can go continue our lives. No, for some people it doesn't. I want to wake up the viewer, because we keep doing the same things that we've done 100, 200, 300 years ago. I think it is important we kind of come all together, even with feelings, you know, it doesn't have to be with actions. Even if we all feel the same, that would change something.